I'm Lisa Eisen. I am the, okay, a couple of people know me. You know I'm not Rachel. I'm the SRE Founding Advisory Board Chair, and I'm also the co-president of Schusterman Family Philanthropies, and I'm just thrilled and honored to be here in this amazing room of amazing people. So thank you all for being here. If there's one thing I know for sure, it's this. Jews show up for what we believe in. As Abraham Joshua Heschel would put it, we know how to pray with our feet, to make our ideals known through our actions. Showing up here today is part of that legacy. It shows how much we respect and value the talented people in our sector, and that is all of you. It shows how much we value safety, dignity, equality, and inclusivity. So thank you all for coming and demonstrating how much these issues matter to our community, and I want to give you all an applause. I've had the privilege of seeing SRE's work deepen and evolve over the last 8 years. I'm so proud to see it remain true to its vital agenda while also adapting to the challenges of the moment. Under Rachel Gildiner's inspiring and forward-thinking leadership, the SRE team, together with so many of you in this room, have accomplished a lot over the last 2 years. Welcoming 22 new member organizations to our now 200-plus organization network, continuing to provide guidance and confidential consultation to scores of professionals and organizations, launching new field resources, microgrants, communities of practice, and working groups to support professionals and enhance organizational standards and culture. Deepening existing partnerships and creating new ones. Piloting new ways of learning and working together across the field. Ramping up SRE communications, op-eds, thought leadership, and presence at communal events. And ensuring our commitment and our priorities remain evergreen while also refining and evolving to meet the moment. We need to celebrate these accomplishments, and we also need to keep SRE's vital work central to the Jewish communal agenda. And I know that this is not a simple feat. But at a time when Jews are facing growing anti-Semitism, threats of violence, immense external threats, it is even more important that we provide a safe haven within our own community. And that means ensuring safe, respectful, and equitable workplaces and communal spaces. And as women's rights and gender equity are increasingly under attack, our community must stand as a bulwark against this rollback and model what it looks like to ensure that every person, no matter their gender, is valued. Every person, that deserves applause. Every person is treated equally. Every person can contribute fully. And that is why we're here. That is what we are fighting for. Speaking of fighting, at the very first meeting that led to the creation of SRE, we learned about doing the work as joyful warriors. And I took that to heart. And my team even made me a bracelet that I wear every single day that says joyful warrior to remind me to embody that spirit. So today, I invite all of us, with all the bright yellow and all the neon, to be joyful. It's conferences like this, it's moments like this, it's being in community that seeds joy, enables us to spend time together and to lift each other up when we really need it. We know this is serious work. We know we are better when we lead with light and when we are in it together. And speaking of leading, I want to take this opportunity to recognize the many leaders and practitioners we have in this room with us today. You are the ones on the front lines of this work, translating the mission and the values of SRE into real change. You are holding our community to the standards that we have set for ourselves, and I want to thank each and every one of you. I'm also joined by fellow funders who make this work possible. I want to give a special shout out to Rachel Monroe and the Weinberg Foundation, to our colleagues from the Jim Joseph Foundation who have been our partners and champions since the very beginning, even before the very beginning. And I also want to thank the Crown Family Philanthropies who helped sponsor this gathering, as well as the many other funders in this room who have supported the work. Thank you so much. We're really, really grateful for your partnership and for everything that you are doing to advance our shared goals. And we know how much need there is in our community and our world, and you're being pulled in a lot of directions. All of you are being pulled in a lot of directions. So it makes your commitment to SRE even that much more powerful. Thank you for praying with your feet and your resources. And lastly, a tremendous thank you to the amazing SRE staff and to the amazing SRE board who guide and sustain this work. Your grace in the trenches is incredible, and I hope you take great pride in the vital impact that you are all making. Thank you all so much. And together, all of us, we are nurturing a Jewish community where we can feel proud, we can feel safe, we can feel welcomed to contribute and to thrive. And together we will go from strength to strength. Thank you. And with that, it is my great pleasure and honor to introduce a cherished colleague in this work, Robert Bank. He has been my partner in crime and a leading light for this work since its inception, and has remained as steadfast today in his commitment as he was 8 years ago, and he has really been by my side all along. Could not do this without you. Robert is the epitome of male allyship, and he exemplifies what it looks like to advocate with strength and clarity for women, for gender equity, and for an inclusive and thriving Jewish community. He is a gem. Please join me in welcoming my dear friend, Robert Bank, to the stage.
Hi. So nice to see everyone. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for your vision in founding the SRE network, for your leadership over these many years, and for your resilience in a struggle that has never been easy, and it is even more difficult now. At a time, and you referenced this time, at a time when there are powerful forces pushing against the work of gender equity, your commitment and the commitment of this network matter greatly. Lisa did this, but I'm going to repeat it because for those of us on the advisory board, we want to thank you all for being here. We want to thank the entire SRE community. Your choice to be at this convening means a lot. It means a lot, as I said, to my colleagues on the advisory board, to our staff team, and our funders. So as Lisa mentioned, she spoke something about me being an ally, and you might have noticed that one of the areas receiving renewed emphasis in our work is mobilizing men as partners. When I was asked to speak about why this matters, my immediate response was simple. How can we not? How can we, as men working and volunteering, I like that sound, in Jewish organizations and communal institutions, make the choice not to engage in this work? Now, if you're a man in this room, and I'm looking at the men in this room, most of you I know, the answer to that question may seem obvious. The men who came here today are probably not the men who need the most convincing. But perhaps that is precisely the point. We gather at convenings like this to learn, to challenge ourselves, to strengthen one another, and to leave prepared to bring others along. The task before us is not simply to engage the men already in this room. it is to engage the men who are not. And there's urgency to that task. And I want to offer 3 reasons why. First, this moment calls for moral leadership, and we are called to meet this moment. We are living through a period of brazen, unapologetic violation of women's dignity by leaders of nations, corporations, institutions, foundations, and yes, Jewish men, including some in positions of leadership in our community. And there's something clarifying about this political moment. When dignity is violated so audaciously, so publicly, and so often without consequence, it has a way of reminding us exactly why this work is not optional. When impunity becomes the norm, silence becomes a choice. And we are here because we have chosen differently. Second, the scale of what is at stake is impossible to ignore. Globally, 1 in 3 women will experience violence from a man in her lifetime. In the workplace, 1 in 7 women has left a job or changed roles specifically because of sexual harassment or assault. These are not abstractions. You know that. These are the experiences of the women sitting in this room, leading our organizations and serving our communities. When we ask why we are here now, these numbers are part of the answer. Third, our values compel us to act. The Jewish community has a unique opportunity to respond. But Tselem Elohim means that every person's dignity matters, not some people's dignity. At a moment where some leaders openly belittle the dignity of women and people of diverse gender identities, we, an organized and ambitious Jewish network, have the opportunity to fill the vacuum of leadership. A healthier culture for women is also a healthier culture for men, for families, for workplaces, and for communities. Globally, I have seen organizations like Equimundo spend more than 2 decades engaging men and boys as partners in advancing gender equity. Their work demonstrates something very important. Men do change when they are genuinely invited into this work, and this is also very important, without blame or shame. That is one of the reasons I'm so particularly excited that we have a breakout group today on engaging men in gender equity work with Trevor Mayo from Next Gen Men. And this is a field I'm particularly interested in and sort of invite people to carry it forward together with me and everyone at SRE. Folks, the future will not be built by women alone. It will be built by women, men, and people of all gender identities working together, holding one another accountable, and creating institutions worthy of the Jewish values we aspire to uphold. So my challenge to the men in this room is simple, and it's for myself too. Do not leave this work here. Take it back to your organizations. Take it back to your boards. Take it back to your colleagues. Take it back to other men, the men who are not in this room. Because if we truly believe that every person is created b'Tselem Elohim, then engaging men in this work is not optional. It is our responsibility. The question is, will we answer that call? Thank you. And now I'm incredibly proud to bring up my colleague on our advisory board, Danielle Natelson.
Good afternoon, everyone. What a gift to be in this room together. I want to start by thanking Lisa and Robert for your extraordinary leadership. The vision, stamina, and care that you bring to this work is a gift that I get to witness up close as an advisory board member, and I do not take it for granted. So thank you for modeling so beautifully. My name is Danielle Natelson. I've had the pleasure of serving on SRE's advisory board for the last 5 years. And I believe deeply that our tradition compels us to never settle for what is, but to always strive for what ought to be. And when it comes to the holy work of ensuring that our communities and workplaces are safe, respectful, and equitable for each and every one of us, there is still a lot of work to do. So many people and places have invested in me and my leadership throughout my life. And the greatest honor I can offer them is to bring my best self to advancing the conditions that allow me and those who come after me to thrive. That's why I'm here and why I keep showing up. And that's exactly what all of you have already done today as well. By being here, we are living into one of my favorite teachings from Rabbi Tarfon, which SRE also seems to really love, and from Pirkei Avot. It is not incumbent upon us to complete the work, nor are we free to desist from it. I return to this often, especially now, when the work feels enormous and the moment feels heavy. It doesn't ask us to fix everything or to be finished. It asks us only to stay in it, to not put it aside. And that's what this convening is, a collective refusal to sideline what continues to necessitate centering. One of the things I love most about this movement is that we claim safety, respect, and equity as deeply, irreducibly Jewish values, not just good organizational practices, but what our tradition demands of us. And our tradition gave us timely models for this moment, just this past Shabbat. We read about the daughters of Tzlofchad, who came before the whole community to make their voices heard. Rivka Lubitch's Midrash illuminates something really essential. At first, they dwelled in their father's shadow and feared to raise their heads. It's only when they drew near to one another, when they found each other, that they felt empowered and were then known by their each individual own names. They gathered, consulted, and together found the courage to speak in the public square. In this past week's Haftarah, we also met Rachav, an outsider in Jericho who hides the Israelite spies and makes their entire mission possible. Despite her vulnerability, she acts with extraordinary courage, without waiting for permission or for formal power. Like the daughters of Tzlofchad, she acted from where she stood. These women invite us to do the same, to leverage our power from wherever we sit, to find each other, to mobilize together. The work is not finished, and we are not free to desist from it. Let us raise our heads, use our collective voices, and get to work. Welcome. And now it is truly a tremendous gift and an honor to welcome up the most extraordinary leader, Rachel Gildiner.
You all have me for a little while, so you can sit back. Thank you, Lisa, Robert, and Danielle, and to the entire SRE Network Advisory Board for your guidance, deep wisdom, and steady support. It has truly been a gift to learn from you all and to advance this work together. Thank you. And I do want to start with more gratitude for the people in this room. It is no small thing that you have taken the time away from busy end of school year activities, Pride, happy Pride everyone, a FIFA World Cup that you may or may not know is happening here, NBA NBA championship games, and from your family and loved ones to be a part of this convening. Whether this work is first or 50th on your organization's list of priorities, thank you, thank you, thank you for showing up today. Growing up as a child of the 80s and 90s, my sister and I watched a lot of TV. We would watch TV when we came home from school. We would watch TV on summer days when it was too hot to be outside. And sometimes we would even sneak it after dinner on a school night. But what I remember most vividly were the times in our house when we watched TV as a whole family, with my mom and dad, who I am blessed to have here today. Now, what made these TV times so much more memorable when we were all together? It was the yelling. Not at each other, but at the television. You see, my parents are feminist advocates and reproductive health champions who refused to let a sexist commercial or sitcom scene pass without pointing it out loudly at the television. And in the 80s and 90s, unfortunately, this was most commercials and many scenes. My sister and I still lovingly joke about the animated way we experienced family TV time growing up. Why is it always the women doing the cleaning? Why do they need to sexualize women to sell gum? And my favorite, remember girls, in this house, it's your father who does the laundry and the sewing. Years later, when I had children of my own, I was reading my son his favorite book. Some of you may know it, Good Night, Construction Site. It's a real winner. But after reciting it for about the 2000th time, I was really tired of every truck being a boy. Construction trucks can be girls too. Construction trucks can be anything. But I didn't yell at the book. I picked up a pen and I started changing pronouns. And in that moment, everything came full circle. My parents were not interrupting our family TV time for fun, just like I was not having fun sitting on a tiny bed with a Bic pen doing line edits of a children's book. But they were teaching my sister and me to notice. Thank you both for this gift. It has driven me every day. My parents were teaching us to notice what gets normalized when nobody questions it, to notice whose voices are missing, whose leadership is assumed, and whose experiences are treated as secondary. And that is what SRE is committed to doing. To working with leaders who refuse not to look away and who know we can do better, who are willing to notice when the implications of gender impede people's abilities to fully show up, to lead, or to be safe in our workplaces. SRE is committed to listening to an employee's experience and helping them, and all of us, understand that the isolated incident they are describing is often part of a much larger and systemic pattern, that they are not alone. SRE is here to ensure that we continue to notice and don't step away from the work, especially when it gets hard. Now, we know and acknowledge that all of us approach this work from different perspectives and lived experiences. Not everyone grew up with parents who yelled at the television, although again, it was a very effective tactic. Not everyone who is committed to this work identifies as a woman. At SRE, we understand gender as diverse and expansive. When we talk about gender equity, we mean all of us. Anyone who identifies as a woman, a man, non-binary, trans, gender diverse. And not everyone who does this work calls themselves a feminist or leads an organization where gender equity is the top priority. But if you believe that building workplaces rooted in safety, respect, and equity is both good for our organizations and deeply grounded in our Jewish communal values, then you are in the right place today. In this room, we have organizational executives and practitioners, educators and clergy, researchers and subject matter experts, survivors of gender-based harm, funders, and foundation leaders. And I do want to take a moment here to extend our deep appreciation to our funders whose investment makes this network and all of this work and this convening possible. Truly, truly, thank you. So these next 2 days are designed for all of us to notice, to name and to notice together, and to recommit to a more equitable future. I hope we will do this work for those who raised us to notice, for those we are raising to notice, and for the colleagues and communities who are building and sustaining rich Jewish life every day. For all of them and for ourselves, welcome to the 2026 SRE Network convening. Now, this is secretly my favorite part of a gathering, which is getting to know who's in the room. When you registered, we asked you a question. How are you doing right now? Your responses were what we might expect. I'm okay, but I'm worried. I'm okay, but I'm also overwhelmed. I'm okay, but I'm exhausted. Many of you described this tension between gratitude and grief, between purpose and exhaustion under the weight of our world today. One of you wrote that your Mother's Day card said, "Mom, I love you, and you work too much. Please take a break." But alongside the exhaustion and the overwhelm, there was also determination, resilience, hope, and a deep hunger for community. So here we are today, an SRE community, in one room together. Let's make the most of it. I'm going to ask you to turn to the person next to you and share your name, your organization, where you're from, and why you're here. We're going to take about 3 to 4 minutes to get to know one another, and in advance, I will ask for your help ending your conversation when it's time to come back together. Please go ahead. We're going to give folks 1 minute to wrap up your conversations. Just one last minute. Okay. It's 3:10. I'm going to ask everyone to end your conversations. Thank you all. My most favorite part is getting to know everyone in the room. My least favorite part is bringing everyone back together again, but thank you. So we hope that you will continue this exchange of perspectives and relationship building over the next 2 days. These 2 days are designed to do that, so please keep these conversations going. Before we talk about SRE and where we're going next, it is impossible to gather these days without acknowledging the times we are living through. Anti-Semitism is real, and it is on the rise, and it affects all of our work. Democratic norms that protect and keep people safe and healthy are under attack, and the rights of many are being stripped away. Our organizations are understandably stretched thin. In moments like these, there can be a temptation to treat equity and belonging as secondary, as nice-to-haves that we will return to once things settle down. SRE believes the opposite to be true, and your being here shows that you believe the same, that moments of overwhelm reveal who we are as a community. They test whether our values are as deeply embedded as we think they are or want them to be. So let us say loudly and unequivocally today that equity, dignity, and fairness cannot be treated as luxuries for easier times. The stakes for our sector and for Jewish life are simply too high. SRE began in 2018 in the wake of Me Too, when it became clear that gender-based harm was happening across Jewish communal life and that the majority of our organizations lacked the tools and support to adequately respond. Gender equity advocate and supporter of this work, Barbara Dobkin, at the time described SRE as a nascent coalition that promises to engage major Jewish community funders, service providers, subject matter experts, to discuss how to change the way our community deals with issues of harassment, pay inequity, and the dearth of women leading our communal organizations. This was in 2018. We can say confidently that as a sector, we have accomplished far more than just discussing. In 8 years, we have invested over $7.4 million into over 150 individual projects. We have convened thousands of organizational and foundation leaders and moved conversations about gender equity from the margins into the spotlight. Hundreds of organizations, many of you in this room, have strengthened their policies, built ethics protocols, and developed more equitable workplaces. We've catalyzed research, curricula, assessment tools, facilitation guides, podcasts, and more, resources that are now being used across our field. We started with a handful of committed founding organizations, and today we are 200 organizations strong, with over 100 of you represented in this room. And today, I'm very excited to share that the SRE standards for creating safe, respectful, and equitable Jewish workplaces, which were a cornerstone of SRE's founding, will soon be embedded within Leading Edge's field-wide snapshot tool and learning management system, reaching organizations across our sector in new ways as part of sector-wide norms. This is huge. In other progress, our third-party evaluation this year told us, through this work, our work, leaders have gained confidence, shared language, and new tools. Field-wide alignment is increasing, and models are being replicated across the field, and that SRE's role as a partner is highly valued, and that means the world. We have moved the needle together, all of us, since 2018. And unfortunately, the need is still great. The field still lacks consistent and coordinated collaboration, accountability, and support. The progress that has happened often lives in silos or depends on individual champions, and it's not enough to meet this moment. We need change that is integrated into our systems, embedded into our leadership, and strong enough to withstand the forces around us today. Gender equity is not a standalone issue. It shapes who contributes to our sector, who is heard, who leads, who is protected, who stays, and who leaves. Those realities affect the strength of every organization in this room and of our entire Jewish communal sector. SRE is here to ensure that there is a roadmap in front of us and that no one has to walk it alone. So, where as a network are we going next? For those of you who have been with SRE since the beginning, none of this will feel unfamiliar. You will recognize this not as a pivot or a departure, but rather a deepening. These issues have been at the heart of SRE's work from day one. But what is new is the precision. 8 years later, 8 years of learning, we have sharpened our understanding of where gaps remain and where the leverage points exist. We are now ready to go deeper, move faster, and ask more of ourselves to meet the current challenges. 1 year ago, at SRE's first executive symposium, we named 5 aspirations for what our sector could look like by 2030. Imagine. Our professional and lay leaders more fully reflect our communities. When harm occurs, there's accountability and a clear path to repair. What pay gap? Meaningful male partnership is no longer exceptional, it is expected. And as a sector, we value family and well-being, and our policies reflect it. 2030. I think we could get there. SRE has spent the past year researching, listening, learning, and convening around these aspirations, and we are now ready to name clearly and with excitement how we hope and intend to get there. SRE continues to work through 3 primary channels. We convene the network as a whole, but also in segments around specific issues. We scale shared knowledge and learning through online programs, thought leadership, and more. And we help resource the work through grant making and field investments. For this next chapter, we are applying these same approaches specifically to 4 interconnected areas that we believe can most effectively catalyze change. We're gonna spend some time talking through each of these, and then we'll have time as a table to reflect and process on what this means for our work together. Those 4 areas are strengthening systems of harm prevention and response, advancing diverse women's leadership, mobilizing men as partners, and engaging funders for lasting change. The first of these areas, strengthening systems of harm prevention and response, has been SRE's primary focus since our founding, and it remains an anchor of our work. Even with a 40% increase in harm prevention and response policies across SRE members, unfortunately, harassment, discrimination, bias, and exclusion remain persistent realities, and unfortunately, many of this room know that all too well. When harm occurs, too many organizations still struggle with accountability and inconsistent responses that cause further harm. And we know that it is predominantly women who experience this harm, and that the most common responses are leaving their role or leaving the sector altogether. Similarly, policies are only as effective as the leaders who apply them, and preventing harm requires both individual and institutional dynamics. SRE has learned over these 8 years that policing accountability does not build a sector-wide movement. And SRE remains committed to helping organizations embed accountability within their own workplaces and their own cultures. It's time for us all to move from compliance to truly living these values. So here's what we are doing. SRE is building an expert consortium. Lawyers, investigators, HR professionals, and trauma-informed responders, all contracted by SRE and readily available to the field. When your organization is navigating workplace harm, you will have the expertise you need at your fingertips, and you won't have to figure it out alone. We are very grateful to Dr. Gila Benchimol, SRE's now Emeritus Senior Advisor, who has played this role for SRE from the start. Many of you in this room have worked with her. Her essential work has shown us the demand for this service, and we are committed to expanding this resource for our sector. SRE will be working with many of you in this room to build standardized, affordable, anti-harassment and anti-bias trainings for every Jewish professional organization and their lay leaders. And we will be hosting learning labs on survivor-centered disclosure response, cohorts that help us move from policy on paper to practice that protects people. And those are 3 of our goals for our first area. Our second, advancing diverse women's leadership. The leadership gap in our sector is real and it is persistent, and the progress that has been made is incredibly fragile. You may have heard the statistic, but women make up over 70% of the Jewish nonprofit workforce, yet hold 30% of leadership roles. That percentage shrinks with the bigger the organization and budget gets. For women with intersecting marginalized identities, barriers are compounded at every level. And across the board, pay gaps remain entrenched. In fact, 2025 was the first time since 1960 that the wage gap widened for a second consecutive year. Advancing women's and gender diverse leadership requires understanding not just who is leading at the top, but where there are broken rungs along the way. And here's what SRE is doing. First, we are investing in original research, a field-wide gender equity study to understand the baseline. Where are women and those with marginalized identities hitting walls? What are the biggest barriers, and how can we remove them? Phase 1 of this research has already been completed. Our literature review, led by Dr. Dietra Reiser, she's in the room if she can. Yes. Dietra, thank you, Dietra. SRE's Senior Advisor for Culture and Belonging. And her research has deeply informed these 4 areas today. And we'll be hosting a Zoom call later in the summer to go deeper into those findings. And we are scaling what works. Research shows that women who receive coaching, leadership development, mentorship, sponsorship, and who are paid equitably are more likely to advance and succeed. SRE is committed to making those supports accessible across the entire field. Our third area is mobilizing men as partners. I just want to say thank you again to Robert. You spoke so beautifully about the importance of this work, and we hope to be able to put some of your intention into action. What we know is that lasting gender equity in Jewish communal life is simply not possible without men. Men hold significant institutional power in many of our organizations, and that is not to be shamed. We need you. I will mention that less than 4% of the participants in this room today are men, and that number tells its own story. We need men to show up as active partners. I want to thank you truly and deeply to everyone who is in this room today. It matters, and it means a lot. And we know that many men themselves right now are struggling. They're struggling with isolation, loneliness, depression, disconnection, often without the language or permission to name what they need. The same norms that limit women's power constrain men as well. That is why the work of gender equity includes supporting men and trans individuals and non-binary individuals, and none of this is in opposition, because gender equity is not a zero-sum game. We need one another. So here's what SRE is doing. We're developing engagement curricula and peer cohorts, spaces to learn, reflect, and build the skills to show up as genuine partners. I want to name here that we are incredibly grateful to the leaders and organizations in this room who have laid the groundwork in this area. We cannot be here at this moment without your work. SRE will be partnering with Mark at Catalyst and Next Gen Men, two leading national initiatives on engaging men as advocates for equity, to help bring the best-in-class tools that they have developed to the Jewish communal context. And we are creating dedicated programming at this and future convenings. If you are a man in this room, thank you for being a part of this work. Please continue to champion gender equity in every room that you are in, and remember that you also are not alone. Our fourth area is all about sustainability. Organizations cannot be asked to advance equitable culture change without the resources to sustain it. Only 2% of philanthropic funding globally goes to women and girls, just 0.5% to women and girls of color. While perhaps the recent news of Melinda Gates' contribution of $215 million to women's health might have moved the needle a bit, unfortunately, these numbers overall have barely moved in decades. Gender equity is still not funded as essential, in part because the true cost of this work isn't yet fully understood. So SRE is committed to changing that, in partnership and in ongoing learning with funders who make all of our sector's work possible. SRE has set a bold goal to double the philanthropic investment in safety, respect, and equity work across our sector. And lastly, these four areas are deeply rooted in Jewish wisdom. There is profound Torah that speaks directly to these issues, and thank you to Danielle for her beautiful example of this at the start. So many incredible organizations and educators in this room and beyond are building this body of work. SRE is committed to continuing to invest in the creation and aggregation of a canon of SRE Torah, because this work is not separate from our tradition. It is deeply rooted in it, and it is deeply Jewish. So what do we expect to see from doing all of these things? We believe that progress in these four areas will collectively move our sector to real, measurable change. We imagine that Jewish workplaces and communal spaces can actively prevent gender-based abuse, harassment, and discrimination in policies and in action. And that if harm does occur, organizations hold themselves accountable to address incidents with clarity, with compassion, and with clear pathways to repair. We believe that if we do these things, leadership at every level of our organizations will reflect the diversity of our sector and the communities we serve, and will be paid equitably for their work. We believe that power will be shared and that all genders take collective responsibility for the thriving and success of one another. and that organizations can readily access the funding they need for safety, respect, and equity work because the field is sustainably resourced. In the next 5 to 10 years, SRE is working toward a field where gender equity is embedded into our policies, our approaches, our leadership, and our funding structures. SRE is committed to ensuring we are all walking toward this horizon together and not allowing it to fall off of our communal agendas. We just shared a lot.